This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you!
Boring. Boring. Boring.
You got it work. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember what you're doing. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Welcome, one and all. Thank you for your patience. I blame the staff. It's about 40 Celsius in the studio today. Why? Because we've had some essential maintenance. And now it's like being in Marbella, probably. If you're watching in Marbella, I know it's probably not 40 Celsius there, but it's the last day of the year, so we can be slightly irreverent. And what a year it's been. This is unprecedented TV. At the beginning of the year, there was no such thing. At the end, we are the most important media output anywhere in the world. That's what I say, and I'm sticking to it. We don't want to beat the mainstream media. We want to be the mainstream media. And somebody who's going to help us do that is, of course, the unrivaled wisdom of Nick Buckley MBE. Nick Buckley, greetings. Happy New Year in advance.
Well, happy Christmas and now happy New Year.
You must be feeling not very special today. Do you know why?
Why?
Because about 10 million people have got MBEs.
Yeah.
The honours list. The only person who wasn't on it was me. They're giving over 1,000 MBEs. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, all kinds of things. How do you feel about the honours list?
I need to be careful what I say because there's many people.
Because you got one.
Because I've got one, and many people don't think I should have one. So it's very hard for me then to criticise other people who have been
Apart
awarded.
from Andy Burnham, then.
I think the award system needs looking at. It was created to reward political allies. It was created to reward the Duke of whatever for not going to war with the monarch or for doing this and doing that. That's why they were created as payment systems, really, to give people titles. But our system now, I mean, Idris Elba has become a knight. He's been knighted. Why? Because he spoke about knife crime. Has knife crime gone down? What, just because he spoke about knife crime, he's been knighted. So the whole system does need looking at.
You just want to be special. That's why you can't bear the idea of sharing your honorary position with Idris Elba. I think he's a really good actor.
But he gets paid for that. He gets paid tens of millions to be an actor. I think these awards should be for people who improve the country, who go above and beyond. I don't.
So why haven't I got one then?
Well, only you can answer that, Lembit. Only you can answer.
No,
that.
the Prime Minister can answer it. The opposition can answer it.
I'll tell you why most people who you think should have one haven't got one.
Go on.
And that's because their tax affairs are not in order.
Really?
No, yeah. I mean, if you've ever been involved in any tax avoidance or any dodgy schemes and things like that, that's why people like David Beckham, it's taken decades to get one. That's why people like Gary Neville, who on the scheme of things should have one but hasn't got one, and it's usually because of the not. It's not that they're not paying tax. It's all to do with tax, and the government looks at it and goes, if this comes out, we're going to look bad PR. You've got to be paying your way in this country to get an award.
But it's perfectly acceptable to be involved in all kinds of death to the police, death to all kinds of groups, and then be welcomed back to this country by Keir Starmer. I mean, I was going to start at the beginning of the year in this review, but Keir Starmer, the gormless idiot who is currently the Prime Minister, in my opinion, has just got himself into hot water by saying, "Oh well, we got paid for this Egyptian person to come back to this country, but I didn't realize all the things that he said." So you can't get an MBE if you've been naughty, but you can get the Prime Minister himself, and it has to be said, the former Prime Minister, to welcome the guy back. I can't even remember his name now.
Allah something. Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Sounds like you're chanting now, but okay,
yeah. If I finish a sentence with Akbar, then you need to be worried.
I shouldn't be laughing, but anyway, carry on.
Yeah,
it's the last day of the year.
This guy was given this guy is a scumbag. This guy never should have been in the country in the first place.
Are you talking about Keir Starmer?
You take your pick, because it fits either way. But the guy's an Egyptian, born in Egypt. It was the Tories who gave him citizenship. We give out 275,000 citizenship every year at the moment. He was given one under the Tories. They all knew what he'd said. It's all online. They've probably been warned by MI5 and MI6 saying he's a terrorist threat. They all know. The reason why they did it is because it makes them feel good. It makes them look good with the establishment. It's great for Muslim votes. It's always the same answers why they did it. They all knew what he said. They all knew what he's like. Of course they did. They're incompetent, but they're not that incompetent.
So whose votes are they trying to get, though? How many people from...
Muslim community, the Muslim community. If you hate Jews, which seems to be a lot of people in our country now, well, he's a poster child for that. We hate the Jews, we hate the Zionists. Allah's great. We got 5-6 million Muslims in the country. It's like, well, there we go. Here's a little poster boy for them. We'll get some votes now.
Yeah, but they've got themselves into an awful lot of trouble over this.
Only for the people who would never vote for them in the first place.
Oh, there it is. Strip extremists of citizenship before Egyptians do, Starmer urged. Pressure mounts from prime ministers. It emerges Allah Abd al-Fattah's sister Mona self-praised October 7th attacks in tweets. Doesn't that very good? There is the great genius, David Lammy. Now, as I say, the Tories are guilty here as well, but David Lammy, you always expect him to get there. I was talking with, well, first of all, on this one, the Tories and the Labour Party both seem to be complicit here in their stupidity.
Yeah, all to do with votes, all to do with woke ideology, all to do with listening to the civil service, who were saying, we ruled Egypt at some point, and do you know what? We need to allow Egyptians to come here now because the rulers in Egypt, they're not very nice to Islamist fundamentalists, they're not very nice to them. We need to get them over here so we can be nice to them. And if we're nice to them, they'll become Western. Isn't that amazing that we can improve these people? And we've been doing this since the 80s, hence why we're one of the centers of Islamic jihad in the world.
But I think that he's sort of apologized, hasn't he? This guy.
And do you believe him?
Abdel Fattah.
Of course he's apologized. He's been found out and now he's worried about having his citizenship stripped. Not by this government, by the way. He don't care. He knows this government's not going to do it. But he knows there's an election coming in a year or two. And he knows if a different government gets in and we're looking at mass deportations, which we will be, and we will be deporting people, he's going, I need to apologize now and get it on a record because I'm one of these people who'll be on one of the first planes leaving this country. That's why he's apologizing.
There's a new hate crime, by the way. It relates to the Deputy Prime Minister. Do you know what it's called?
No.
It is Lamophobia.
Lamophobia.
Lamophobia. Okay. Don't use that again. Right, thank you very much indeed. Of course, the government's not in trouble just for that. The BBC's in trouble because earlier on in the year we've got this. That's not what I want to see. Put the other one up. There we are. Trump sues BBC for $10 billion. It's a beautiful thing. The BBC spliced my speech together to make it look like I do hate crime. Donald Trump finishes the year in deadly, no, that's the wrong word, in absolutely dogged pursuit of the BBC. And this is because of the fake news, and it clearly was fake news because the BBC submitted it, where they spliced two bits of his speech together to make it look like he was inciting violence on Capitol Hill all those years ago. What do you think about this one?
I'm glad he's suing the BBC. It's about time someone did. The BBC don't care about being sued because we own it. They don't own it. And if they get a big bill, they get a big bill. They're quite happy spending our license fee money on defending the case. So really, they've not even got skin in the game. Hence why it needs to be done. We need someone like the BBC to be taught a lesson. They need to be taught that you can't do these things. You can't slander people. You can't make stuff up. You can't continually be biased and then tell us you're not biased. It's okay to be biased. You're biased. I'm biased. But there are opinions and people know it's our opinions. We don't go, this is fact, when we know it's not fact. But the BBC do it all the time. I hope it gets to court. I hope the BBC get a good spanking over this. And then we will see if they can change, if there'll be a better news organisation going forward.
You said a couple of things there which I find quite offensive. First of all, you said I'm biased. That's anti-Estonian. And you know very well you can't get away with that. There's a 2-year prison sentence for a start. You know, I feel very offended by it. And I'm offended by your tie. Also reporting that to the police. And partly because I just look like I've been mountaineering or something. The second thing is that the BBC, and I have to say I agree with you on this, if it gets sued, we're paying the bill. It's taxpayers' money. And I just think, oh no, not again. How can the BBC have drifted so far away from what's called the wreath values, the charter, which is all about being independent, all about being objective? How can they have drifted so far away from it that Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, who's the American president, is suing the BBC for fake news? Fake news so bad that the head of the BBC, Mr. Davey, actually resigned over it.
See, a lot of these problems will be down to incompetence. Some of it will be planned, some of it will be incompetence. Because the BBC are one of those organisations that believes in DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. They have anti-racist policies. They are pro-feminist policies. They're wonderful to LGBTQ, blah, 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 blah. So they hire people based on characteristics, not on merit. So the level of intelligence in the BBC has fallen over many decades now because they don't employ the best anymore. They employ the best within a tiny minority group of people. So some of these things will be incompetence. But the BBC also suffers from this, which is they think they speak on behalf of the British people. They think not only are they right, they think they're the moral guardians of society. And a good example would be, we all think Hitler was evil. So nobody wants to be like Hitler. So it's their job to make sure none of us are like Hitler. And if you've got any Hitler traits, then you're obviously a bad person. And they're trying in a propaganda way to rule the country, to tell people what's good and what's bad. Instead of saying, these are the facts, then you work out yourself if you think it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Breaking news from the Philippines, Nick Buckley, MBE. Ricky Sickles says, hello and happy new year, bro.
Well, happy new year to the Philippines.
The breaking news is that somebody in the Philippines still uses the word bro. Okay, right. So let's go back to this. You're being really quite pejorative about individuals who aren't woke. You used an interesting example. You said that people who would support Hitler essentially couldn't say so. And yet, one of the 3 conditions, there are only 3 conditions from Russia to stop the war in Ukraine, is the denazification of Ukraine. People don't realize this, but this fellow here has been, Donald Trump has been talking to the president of Russia to try to stop the war. But this chap here seems to be very unwilling to go along with the conditions set for him by Russia. Fraught EU summit backs Ukraine, but divisions are clear. Now, this is another big story all year long. I want to remind us of the 3 conditions, which for some reason the mainstream media doesn't realize have been consistent from Russia. To stop the war, they want 3 things. They want well, I'll come to that third one in a moment. They want no Ukraine in NATO. They want no militaristic Ukraine. And the third one is they want the denazification of Ukraine. Now, you can argue the toss on all of these, but let's focus on the third one because it ties into what you just said. As far as Russia's concerned, there's a Nazified aspect to Ukrainian politics, and they want to get rid of it. Why would anyone disagree with that? Because either Ukraine has got Nazi behaviors, in which case I think we would all agree they should be disposed of, or it hasn't, in which case we should all agree that it shouldn't be Nazified. Why is this issue not mentioned in the mainstream media?
Because we support Ukraine, and we can't have anybody discussing the bad bits of Ukraine, such as the massive fraud, such as there's no need for this war, such as we could have a peace deal if we wanted one, and such as Ukrainians were, lots of them were Nazis during the Second World War, and there's lots of Nazi groups in Ukraine at the moment, as far as I've been told. I've not done much research on this, so let me caveat that. So that's why we don't mention those things, because they're our allies, and we can't say bad things about our allies. Russia's the evil one. Russia.
Yes, I have to say that I find the man in the picture there singularly unattractive as a politician. He's not a politician. He's a professional clown.
Isn't he Jewish?
I don't know.
I think he's Jewish as well. So that then goes against Ukraine can't be Nazis, can they? Because they've got I seem to think he's either Jewish or part Jewish or something like that.
Well, the Azov battalion has got a pretty grim record. Warren Thornton, who's ill, by the way, he's also in the Philippines. He's not well. Got a very bad dose of food poisoning at the moment. But he says the Azov battalion, which is one of the units in Ukraine, it's got a rather tarnished record. So I don't know. I don't know, and I don't really care about Zelensky's religion. I do care about the fact that he's a clown who's running a war effort where he's losing. We'll come back to this in a minute, but do you think that there's any chance that I actually asked this question because I'm told to ask this question, not that I don't know the answer. Do you think there's any chance that Ukraine can win the war?
No, absolutely not. There's no way they can win the war. But let me make a prediction for next year. I think there's a very good chance next year, at some point, you'll find British, French, and maybe German troops publicly in Ukraine. They may not be front line fighting, but we'll be sending troops to Ukraine next year. I think there's a very good chance of that.
But if we do that, then we're directly fighting Russia, and we're bound to lose.
Yep, but I think the leaders of Western Europe now will do anything to stay in power, and it's easier to stay in power when there's a war. You unite. Historically, that unites a nation, that gives them a bogeyman, someone evil to hate who's external. I can see Western powers, European powers, doing this to keep in power.
I mean, that's a pretty grim prognosis, I have to say. My serious view here is that the longer the war goes on, the more land is lost to Russia. And as Vladimir Putin has said, in my view correctly, either Ukraine gives up the land that Russia wants, or they'll fight for it and get it. The only difference is how many billions of dollars are wasted and how many lives are lost.
Yeah.
Pretty grim consideration. If you're watching this live, sorry to bring the tone down. But on the upside, you're watching me, Lembit Öpik, live with Nick Buckley MBE. Do not adjust your set. We started at 9:30 GMT today. because the studio overheated, and perhaps the debate as well. Somewhere else you'll find great heat is with Tim Scott, who was kind enough to come all the way to the studios yesterday. He's got Tim Scott uncancelled. Watch this. That is Tim Scott, and we're changing that intro for him quite soon. From the least I could do, he bought me lunch yesterday. It's more than you've ever done, Nick Buckley MBE.
I helped you stand up. I helped you stand up at a bar once so you wouldn't fall over.
Oh, don't go into that, please. That was about 40 years ago. Okay, let me just change what I said. He is as generous as you are. Okay,
there we go.
Let's move on. Can you ever get an MBE revoked? Don't answer that question.
You can actually, yeah.
No, well, if your tax affairs go funny, let's talk about free speech then. Somebody got out of prison during the year. Lucy Connolly now wants to work with reform. Lucy Connolly was put away for hurty words on the internet, and we actually touched in some detail on this subject with Tim Scott, who's also head of the Freedom Association. What's happened to our free speech in 2025, Nick?
We've lost even more of it, haven't we? This virus we've got in the country has infected everything. The reason why she went to jail was because she was advised to plead guilty and she'd get a slap on the wrist. She pleaded guilty and got sentenced for 2.5 years. Happens all the time. We've got these solicitors who basically work for the state. They're being paid by the state so they can be influenced. And when the government doesn't like you or your narrative and they see you as a national threat, they put pressure on solicitors, on the whole industry, and go, we need these people locking up. And it's not as direct as that, but a lot of people were given poor advice, took the poor advice and went to jail. But the Ricky Jones, the Labour councillor, who was videoed a crowd telling people to slit their throats and let's kill them, he pleaded not guilty. It got to a jury trial and he was found not guilty. So that's why we need jury trials, and that's why you need to plead innocent and not plead guilty when it's a free speech issue, because juries will find you innocent. And I'm glad he wasn't sent to jail, because for me, it was free speech. He didn't mean it, and it didn't reach the bar for me to be incitement to violence. I was going to say, so we need to be fair on both sides. This isn't let's lock him up. I don't want him locked up either.
Councillor charged with cutthroat protest remarks was the headline on the BBC. Ricky Jones said, let's cut their throats. He was talking about the hard right, what he considered the hard right, and get rid of them all, he said. And the difference was he pleaded not guilty.
Yeah.
He was on bail, despite the fact he said that, and he was found not guilty. Lucy Connolly, I'm told, was advised to plead guilty.
She was.
It's not a good look at all. See, I saw her in a live. I went to an interview that she gave at a reform conference, and she was asked, should Ricky Jones go to prison? She said, no, he was an idiot, but he shouldn't go to prison, and nor should I. So free speech seems to be a threat. What do we do about it?
Well, we carry on doing what we're doing, because I keep telling people this year, we're winning. 2025 has been a great year for the war. And that's what we're fighting. We're fighting a war to save this country, to save the West. And 2025 has been a great year. We've won many battles this year. We've got many more battles to come over the next couple of years. But this year's been great. So let's round up what we've done this year. We've made the Supreme Court say, do you know what? Women are women. And stop letting men pretend they're women. That was the Supreme Court. That was a victory. We've got raised the colours. We've got the flags everywhere. We've got the English waking up going, we've had enough. We're going to wave our flags. We've got the protests outside of migrant hotels been going on nearly all year. Things are looking up. The government's on the run. 6-7 months ago, no political party was talking about mass deportation of illegals. Now the Tories are saying they're going to do it, and Reform now are doing it. It was only 6 months ago Nigel Farage was saying it couldn't be done. It was impossible. Stop talking about it. It can never be done. And he's changed his mind now. Why? Because the public are demanding it. So all the pushback, everybody fighting online, turning up at demonstrations, us having these conversations, everybody is contributing to changing the narrative in the country. And the politicians are beginning to change their opinions and their ideas, because all the politician ever wants is votes.
And yet,
go on.
So, and yet we've got lawfare instead of warfare now.
Yep.
A lot of argument about our relationship with America, where they've actually got what I think is the First Amendment. Is that the one about free speech? Lawfare techniques and tactics, which has been deployed in the United States to an extent, but to a very large extent in Britain, where people are scared of going to prison. Whatever you're saying, fighting talk from you, and I respect you for it, Nick, Buckley MBE. But people say to me, well, yeah, I really don't like X, Y, Z, but I don't want to say so in case I get into trouble.
And I understand that. But what those people need to understand are several things. First of all, they're in a war. There's no doubt about it. So the days of doing nothing, those days are over. So you can be a coward if you want to be and do nothing, or you can start fighting back and fight back the safest way you can work out. So it doesn't mean about losing your job. It doesn't mean about intentionally trying to go to prison. It means fighting back behind the scenes, doing it maybe anonymously, maybe just talking to your family and friends. Or maybe it's just as simple as, from now on, I'm not going to lie anymore. I'm not going to nod along where I go, yeah, men can be women. Yeah, there's institutional racism in the country. Yeah, I'm going to nod along to that. Stop living your life by lies. And the choice you've really got is this. You're either going to live the rest of your life on your knees, or you're going to live on your feet and potentially die on your feet. That's the choice you've got. But doing nothing isn't an option anymore.
Powerful words. We've only got about another 5 minutes left. And thank you, by the way, if you're watching. This is the live broadcast, if you're watching it live, on New Year's Eve, the last year, the last day of 2026. That sounded a little bit doom-mongering there myself.
Last day of 2025.
Oh, yes, sorry. No, I've come back from the future. I've come back from the future, Nick. We come in peace, shoot to kill. Nanu. But in 2025, you're quite right. We had a lot of surveillance. The most surveilled country in the world, I think. We're certainly the country in the world with the largest number of prosecutions for hate speech, I think, and that kind of thing. George Orwell was right, wasn't he?
He was. And I take all these new laws, I take all this new authoritarian rules and policies, I take that as a win. They're so afraid now, they can see their power slipping through their fingers, that they're having become more and more authoritarian. And there's a line in Star Wars where Princess Leia is talking to Darth Vader's boss, General Tarkin or something, I think he's called. And she says to him, the tighter your grip, the more solar systems will slip through your fingers. And that's what's happening now in our country. The tighter their grip on our neck, the more of us are slipping through their fingers and fighting back. So it is going to get worse in a certain extent next year. They're going to become more authoritarian. They're going to stamp on our necks a lot more, but only because they know they're losing. They're on the losing side. They can't win this battle. They know it. And that's why they're going down this path of more authoritarianism.
I just want to extend, we're going to overreach by about 3 minutes. You criticize the Empire and Star Wars. I once had an article published on the following basis. When you watch the Star Wars films, the overwhelming majority of people in them, in other words, the extras, they're running street stalls and they're walking about doing their business or holding hands with aliens. And the protagonists are all angry, but they're a tiny minority. And they go from planet to planet in their escapades. But the overwhelming majority of people in all of the Star Wars films are happy. So I put it to you that the Empire, with Darth Vader and all the others, is doing a better job than Keir Starmer's Labour Party?
Yes, that's a good point. I wrote an article on Star Wars a couple of years ago.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, yes, I did.
Oh, no, you didn't.
It was a tongue-in-cheek article. It's about how woke Star Wars is, because all the stormtroopers, the baddies, are all dressed in white. So all the baddies are white. You know, and I went through everything like that. But part of the thing I discussed was, you can tell Star Wars was written by an American guy, because
Why?
an American history is the Empire was evil. We had to fight the Empire, the British Empire. We had to fight the Empire for our freedom. So in American psyche, Empire is wrong, because they had to fight an Empire for their freedom. That's the essence of Star Wars, really.
I actually, I have to say, I like this. We'll have a whole series in Star Wars, whole program maybe at least. And where are you going to be celebrating New Year? If you're watching this live, obviously, if it's in the archive, you can see if we were right or wrong in 2026, which is not yet, by the way. I was just looking ahead.
I want to be in my local pub. I've got tickets. There's some live music. It's a lovely little pub, so I'll be going there.
Is it Wetherspoons?
It may be, it may not.
Dear Mr. Wetherspoon, if you'd like to sponsor Unprecedented TV, 2026 is here to do it. There's a great Wetherspoons near me. I might be there. And finally, Nick Buckley, good year or bad year 2025?
It's been a good year. Only compared to previous years, and only compared to how bad the year could have been. I can see not a chink of light at the end of the tunnel now. I can see the exit of the tunnel. It's still far away, but I can see the exit. And if we keep fighting, we keep pushing, we keep demanding free speech, we stop being cowards, we stop being cowardly, you know, we take some personal responsibility, we start saying we love this country, we're going to fight for it, we're going to be at that exit a lot sooner. And that's when we get to the sunny uplands. Nick
Buckley MBE and all the other people, the other 40 million people who got honours this year. Thank you for your exclusive views. That is Nick Buckley bringing to an end Lembit Öpik Live for this year. Next year, if you're watching this live, we will continue. We're actually going to be on air tomorrow morning as well. I'm going to do that myself because I'm going to give the team a day off. It's going to be a busy year. Wow, how busy it's going to be. I'm going to tell Nick Buckley about that as soon as we're off air as well. Thank you very much for your viewership. Thank you for being with us. Please like and subscribe. Just do that one thing for me. My New Year's wish is that you just spend another 20 seconds going to Unprecedented TV on YouTube and just press like, press subscribe, costs you nothing, and join us at the home of free speech. For the final time, I'll say this. We don't want to beat the mainstream media. We want to be the mainstream media. And so it shall be as of, not as in battalion, but as of next year. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if you're watching this live, have a great new year. And do like and subscribe us as well. Other shows will be going out today as well. And Warren Thornton, get well soon. He'll be back on air, I hope, next week as well in 2026. Thanks very much, all of you. Thanks to my team. But more than anything, I trust you because you trust us, because you think for yourself. I'm Lembit Öpik. This has been Lembit Öpik Live for most of this year on Unprecedented TV. Happy New Year.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages.